if this just stops here, how do you feel about being the George Lazenby of Doctor Who?
Quite happy. Quite happy, thank you very much. Yeah, the George Lazenby. Yeah, don't think I haven't thought about it. Yeah, wouldn't bother me, mate. Yeah. Like I say, it's here and now, you know. Yeah. And I'm having a laugh here. This is okay so far, you know. Thing is, you know, it must be said, you know, the characters. I mean, production-wise, it's got these inherent advantages in that, you know, you can quickly interchange one for another. So, like I say, who knows what's going to happen, you know. But it wouldn't bother me in the slightest, you know. I mean, like I said, what would bother me more than anything is to be stuck in something that my heart wasn't in, because it would just be.
But you're enjoying this?
Foolish, yeah, it's a crack. Thus far, so long may it continue.
This one is a little bit different for me. When we talk about all these wonderful stories behind us, generally it is, at least from my perspective, it is being watched from PBS, the first time I've seen it. But we had this, as you well know, had this TV movie that was made in 1996. And the difference about that is that this was something that wasn't going to air on PBS, was not going to air on KTCA, and this is something that came to us as sort of, for us at the time, a big possibility that Doctor Who was going to return. And the thing about that is that, we're nearly 30 years from the time that the TV movie aired. I call it the TV movie, by the way. I know a lot of people call it just Doctor Who or the movie. I call it the TV movie, and we'll get into naming and stuff a little bit later. But, 30 years ago, we only knew basically what was fed to us. And what was fed to us at the time was simply that there is a one-off Doctor Who movie that's going to be made by the BBC and Universal. It's going to be airing on Fox on May 14th. And if it does well, then there's a really good chance that this one-off film is going to go into series. And that was, at the time, very exciting. You know, obviously, many of us who had been fans for a while, and Doctor Who went away in 1990, with a lot of people talking about when it comes back and all the contingencies and everything like that, with people like Jerry Davis and Terry Nation, Verity Lambert, Sidney Newman, all trying to show the BBC what they could do to bring Doctor Who back. All that stuff is documented all over the place if you want to look for it. But then when this was announced, this was pretty incredible. And eventually it all culminated into the TV movie. Like here, it doesn't even call it that. It's just called Doctor Who. It doesn't even say the movie. But this is very much, an interesting story. And the story that I'm going to tell today is different than what the actual story is. And I'm going to explain why that is. Because this film is very special to me. And I know a lot of you are probably listening going, yeah, it's special to us too. What makes this different for me is at the time that this was being made and at the time it was broadcast, I actually worked for a Fox television affiliate. So we were charged with, on a local level, to support the programming, and knowing that Doctor Who was going to be shown in May, I made it my business, obviously, to everybody, to at the station. You see a theme, right? When you watch my videos, when I talk about in different videos about how I insert myself and my love for this series on many people at many times, this is no different, but on, for once, a professional level. And I was really excited about doing that. And there's a lot to talk about here. A lot of fond moments, a lot of fond things that had happened. And I really want to share as much as possible, because this is really an incredible time of my life. I know it's an incredible time for other people in their life. I know that this film, this one-off film on Fox, created a whole legion of new fans that didn't know, or maybe hadn't ever really watched any of the previous PBS or anything else, that you became a fan because of this one movie. And this really kicked the brand in the butt for a lot of different reasons. We're going to get into some of them. Least of all the story. I'm sorry, but mostly because of everything that went around beyond it. And one thing that I want to make sure that is clear, and I want to make sure I get out there, because I didn't actually put this in my notes. You have to understand, at the time that this came out, like right now, we're deluged with all sorts of sci-fi, fantasy, different types of films and television that were very scarce at the time that this came out. And so this is really something that's sticking, kind of in a different area. And so at the time, obviously, you have X-Files that was running. You have stuff like Xena, and you have Hercules. A big contender at the time that Doctor Who came out with Sliders. That some people believe that Sliders was the reason that Doctor Who wasn't made. That's not the case. Doesn't mean I still have to like Sliders. But there's a lot going on here. And the one thing that I really find very interesting at the moment, at the time that this video is being recorded, is kind of the way that history is repeating itself at the moment. And in 1990, the BBC took Doctor Who off the air, and they cited the whole thing is that we want to make sure that when it comes back in the best possible form, and that we are, we're going to find someone to make this, and we all thought that it would be like maybe a year or so, and we heard all this wonderful stories about people that are pitching new ideas to the BBC to rebuild and recreate Doctor Who. And, it took some time between 1990 and 1996 for this to happen. And if we look at where we're at now with Doctor Who, and with Shudigatwa's final season, which we didn't expect it to be, he probably didn't expect it to be, but what I understand at least is that the deal with Disney was, they say for 2 years. I guess it is 2 years, but I mean, the Tenet specials aired just a little bit before the start of Shudi's first series, and there's like no decision being made, and the fact of the matter is like the BBC is issuing statements. We're constantly seeing stuff on the internet, stories that the BBC is, they're really trying to make sure that Doctor Who comes back in the best possible form. Meanwhile, we're being told that Disney hasn't made a decision, or that Disney is waiting to see how the Sea Devil spinoff is doing before committing to more, which to me doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because Doctor Who is actually the main series. You'll have to forgive me. And I see people posting this stuff as little grasps of lifeline, if you will, that, oh, good, some good news here. The BBC is still committed. The BBC is still committed. I have no doubt in my mind that the BBC is still committed. It's a great big moneymaker, and it is really a big part of the BBC's identity. And I don't doubt that they want to make sure that it comes back as good as possible. But, folks, something I do want to say, and you can disagree with me as much as you want, is that we are in the second wilderness period. I'm not going to say wilderness years, but things aren't going to be the same. And what's going to happen is that it's going to probably take a little while. And that's going to be frustrating. I do not doubt for a second Doctor Who comes back in some televisual form. I've said before other places that I think Doctor Who is now in the echelons of like a Sherlock Holmes, even a Star Trek or something like that, where you can't get rid of a great premise, a great character. It will come back. But for those who are thinking that it's going to be back next season and that they just need to hurry up and get some decisions made, and I even see people talking about, well, there's still time to get a Christmas special together. There is not. And the fact of the matter is that everything is pretty much at a stalemate. Doesn't mean, once they get the go-ahead, doesn't mean that it will take long for production to start up again. But whether or not Bad Wolf is still a part of it or anything else, I think all cards are on the table right now. And I think there is a lot of rethinking happening as well. So, folks, it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be on the timeline that you think it's going to be, but it will happen. I personally do not doubt it. This is coming from somebody who, has been through the first wilderness years and who has worked in television. And by all means, happy to be proven wrong if by the time this video comes out that there's a whole announcement of what the new era of Doctor Who is. We just don't know, but this is my part on it. And normally I wouldn't even weigh in on something like this in one of these videos, but the correlation and the kind of the comparison between the two eras for me is just too delicious not to talk about. And another correlation that we're going to get to is how we think that Doctor Who translates to a popular media source, whether we're talking about the Fox television network that is broadcasting this out to the entirety of the United States on the biggest stage around, or the fact that Doctor Who was streaming on Disney. And we think, well, if Disney wants to have a piece of Doctor Who, that means that this is just going to be the step to making Doctor Who, which was already pretty big from the Tennant and Matt Smith years, to being gigantic. And the correlation, once again, is too close not to comment on. All I do know, though, is in 1996... I was in a unique position with the TV movie, and I want to talk about it. And for some time, my path had crossed with the TV movie, not on a fan level, but of one of a little bit more of perhaps a professional level, so to speak. And I want to share that with you because it's quite the story, and quite the story of seeing how an American television network deals with, promotes, and then throws aside something that has taken years to get to the screen and countless hours to make. And in one night, it is completely taken off the face of the earth, at least how the Fox network looks at it. It's going to be an interesting story. Now, this is the part where I just want to remind folks, if this is your first time with me, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. There are a lot of great videos on it. I have a lot of non-Doctor Who videos that I have put out there. I am planning. I've also just, if people have noticed, within the past year, I'm actually working with the Warner Archive to review their content as well. So it's not British television, and I try to make that very different so you know if you're not interested in that at all. But I'm reviewing their amazing content. So please check out my YouTube videos, my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And then if you want to get a hold of me, you can always do so. If you have any corrections, if you want to share your experience about watching this, you can do so on YouTube in the comments or send me an email. I bet a lot of you have some really, really wonderful comments about this film. And if you have any corrections, please send me a polite email. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm more than happy to make arrangements. And then, of course, I do a Patreon. And the Patreon is incredibly helpful to me. And I really, I do need it for my channel to survive. And I appreciate everyone who is not a part of my Patreon but watches it. I understand. And I love the fact that you support me. I'm asking those who have a little bit of extra cash a month that you think that I'm worthwhile, please check out my Patreon page. It starts as low as $3 a month. At different price levels, you get different things, including I do a lot of radio times, TV times stuff. We do exclusive videos there. So I'm just going to say this publicly. We're working on a video for Dimensions in Time. We're working on a video for, of all things, In a Fix with the Sontarans. But these will not be released ever publicly. Just like we have released a live presentation of Doctor Who on BBC Video with the War Games, which will not be released publicly as well. So if you want to see those, please head over to my Patreon, plus the fact that when I interview folks, I don't include the whole interview in these videos. Those are separate as well for our Patreon folks. A little thank you to them. Now, let's talk about how the TV movie was made to start with, okay? Which is very interesting, and this plays into a lot of things. And this was very common in the 1990s. If you own any of the Star Trek, The Next Generation, Blu-rays, or the X-Files as well, this is a quick overview on the production workflow of how stuff like this is made. To start with, Doctor Who, the TV movie, and I'm going to keep calling it the TV movie, so I hope that doesn't upset people. The TV movie was shot in 35 millimeter film. I mean, it's incredible. How incredible is that? And it was edited on a non-linear editing system. So what happens is every day when you shoot for this film, you're running film through a camera. What happens every day is that film is ran through a scanner at low quality, and all film has a identifier on it. It will talk about the shot, the film roll number. These are identifiers, so if you need to find them. And that is called a one-light transfer. The one-light transfer is a quick transfer of the film, and everything is created as a one-light transfer. Everything shot, every single thing that's shot is created as a one-light transfer, and that is what we call dailies, okay? And why is it called dailies? Because it's ran through every night, and every day you have your executive production team, which would be Philip Segal, of course. I don't know if Joe Wright would have been out there, probably. Jeffrey Sachs, obviously. They would all be watching these and making sure that everything is good as it can be, and you have these dailies. When you have these dailies, when I say you're transferring them probably to something like, at the time in 1995, you're transferring them in 96. You're transferring them to DV Cam or something like that. Just sometimes digital video or something even maybe less. And you're transferring these tapes. And then those tapes, not only are they, being viewed, but they're being loaded into a editing system. And what happens from there is that these shots are now starting to be edited together. And we're starting to put together a rough cut of the film. So you're putting all these shots together, and if you look at rough cuts of any kind, sometimes you might run across something saying missing FX or whatever else. And that's why if you get a hand on any rough cuts, you're going to hear music from, say, other films. Something that isn't, or maybe even like in the case of the TV movie, you hear a different version of the Doctor Who theme. We heard that with Rose, when the rough cut had leaked on Rose back in 2005. So the reason that is because they are putting music to it that is the general feel that they want to create. Then John Debney is going to go and he's going to orchestrate, he's going to compose, orchestrate, and then put the music to film. So that's how all that is working. Special effects are being worked on, but you have all this on this low quality dailies, and this rough cut is going to have all that information I talked about. The film roll number, the shot number, all this information, the time code of each piece, and you're putting together a rough cut. And that rough cut is something that got out, and we'll talk about that. But the thing is once Jeffrey Sachs and Philip Segal and Joe Wright and whoever else are looking at this and they feel like this film is now good to go, we call that the picture is locked. So the picture is now locked, meaning that there shouldn't be any more edits, because at this point now you can have John Debney finalize the music, because it's now you have the timing right. So now you can get everything right. You get the special effects right, because you know exactly that the picture you see is not going to change. So they kind of finish things up. On the film side of it, everything that makes it into the final film is what we call a select. So we talked about every piece of film being transferred. Well, that's not the film that makes it to the television for us to watch. What you see is with everything created as a rough cut, and remember, I said it has all of those film numbers and stuff on there. Then they are able to pull those films, those reels, and what we do is what we call a final transfer. And the final transfer it's a much better scan of the film. At this point, not HD. At this point, it's all being transferred in standard definition. And what happens is that you're scanning this film in the best possible format that you can at the time. And then a colorist will go, in my world, we call it grading, where you grade the picture. Other people call it color timing. And you basically, not only are you grading the picture, but you are grading it from shot to shot, so that there is no like whoa, one shot's really dark, the other one's really light, but it's all in the same scene. That continuity is missing. So you have somebody who does that, and that is not as easy as you think it would be. There's a lot that goes into all that. Then you do the effects that you put over it. Then you do what we call a final mix, and you lay that track down, and you lay down a final master. And the stuff that I have, and I'm going to talk to you why I can speak with such authority, is that everything that I could see looks like it came from a D2 master, and now that stands for Digital 2. From what I've always understood, D2 is actually a pretty crappy format. You also have a D1, which is a huge cassette, and that generally is, I think, where you put, at the time at least, because these are formats that are long gone. But at the time, at least, I think what you would do is that you would put your selects onto the D1. And remember, when you're transferring from a digital tape to digital tape or digital tape to, a master or whatever, you're not losing quality. It's all digital, so it doesn't matter. But you had that. The BBC for a long time used D3 for their archiving of taking programs on 2-inch or whatever and transferring it to D3, which is basically a half-inch videotape format, not too dissimilar from the size of like Betacam or something. They eventually moved to Digibeta, but now they went to an LTO tape. And so I think that's how they finished their backup of the archive, if I'm not mistaken. So very, there's a lot going on to that. And this is an important thing to just bring up, because a lot of people want to know why can't we get a version of the TV movie, like a proper version of the TV movie in HD. Now, it was released some time ago on Blu-ray. And that is what we call an upscale. And that's what we've been getting with the collection sets. They're upscaled. But the difference is that you have somebody in the form of Peter Crocker for the collection who's really paying attention to the upscale. I'm not sure if anyone was for the TV movie. I looked at it. It looks like everything else that I have for the TV movie. But it's interesting. But it's not a true HD piece. Now, I'm not sure if I should be saying this, but I personally know for a fact that that the film elements exist for the TV movie, that they were not destroyed, and I know a number of people, so I was able to talk to the right people and get that, just get that secured. I wouldn't do anything with that. I can't pull them or anything. And so the idea that an HD, a true HD Blu-ray version of the TV movie on Blu-ray or something is a possibility. But there's something else then at that point. And that's the thing. Once again, if you look at like the Star Trek The Next Generation Blu-rays that came out, an absolute immense amount of work goes into that, because all those film rolls that I'm talking about, and there's just a ton of these tiny film rolls, you have to track them down. You have to now rescan them in HD. You have to now recolor them. You also now have to put new digital effects over it. And if you're going to do a good job with it, you're going to need to make sure that you have all the audio elements so you could do a complete remix. When it comes to something that is like on the collection sets where you have exteriors in film, that's probably not that big of a deal. I mean, everything's a big deal in production. Don't get me wrong. But, it's probably not super difficult. And Spirit from Space, for the collection set, if I'm not mistaken, they did the one scan for HD that came out with the Steelbook. And I think what we got in the Season 7 collection set is that same scan, but just graded differently. And that's something people may not understand as well, is when you're scanning films, you have it as this untouched version, and it's going to look very washed out. It's just going to look dull. And that's what you want, because that's the canvas that you start with, and you can build from there. So I would guess that for Spirit from Space, Peter Crocker went back to those raw files, those raw scans of Spirit from Space, and did a completely new scan of the films for the story. But with the TV movie, first of all, you have to get access. And my guess is that are they, if they're probably not going to send them to the UK to get scanned, and they're probably going to request that their people scan it, and that's expensive. People have said to me, like, even with stuff that's in studio, meaning that, that work could be done because it's, all within the BBC or something like that. Why don't they just do certain things? And the reality is everything does cost money. There are internal price points within organizations. If you're not taking it outside, you're still probably going to be charged money, even if you're taking it to another department within the same organization that you are putting this together with. So things are not cheap. Now, I don't doubt for a second that there are a lot of favors that are being done in these areas to make sure that these things are cost effective. But when you're bringing in a third party like Universal, which is where the film elements are stored, then you are opening yourself up to a possibility of a lot more confusion and complexity. So as much as I want to say, and I was kind of going back and forth because I've known this for a few years now, about the film elements. Like, do I say it because, people are going to probably be like, oh, now there should be no reason we don't get a Wilderness Years collection set with a brand new scan of everything. But the truth is like, if they are able to do it, it's going to be a miracle, to be perfectly honest, because there's so much working against them. And my guess is that knowing how forward-thinking the folks of the collection are, that they've already been making inquiries to see if it's feasible. I would guess that if such thing like a Wilderness Years collection came out, or a reissue of the TV movie came out, and it did not have a remastered version, my guess would be that they did the best they could. And I ask you to remember that when it comes time to watching and when you see stuff come out, because just like with people being upset that The Crusades was not animated for the Season 2 box set, folks, please consider that there's money that needs to be spent on this stuff, and animation's expensive, and even scanning film in another country is super expensive as well. Now, you're gonna hear me say stuff like my involvement with the film and stuff like that. That is just something that I fall into every once in a while because I feel like I've had such a close association. I need to be clear here. I've had no involvement with the film whatsoever. I have this weird sense of ownership for the TV movie, which is borderline unhealthy because of my involvement working at a Fox affiliate. If you were to be working on a film, if you say that it's your involvement, the people who worked on the film should know who you are. And nobody who worked on the film knows who I am. But I just really have such a strong affinity with this film. And being able to work at Fox at the time is truly something. And a Fox affiliate, first of all, for those in the UK who may not completely understand what I mean by an affiliate, and I think you all do. I think there's enough of that ITV, in a sense, did similar stuff, but on a kind of a very different way. But it's basically a local version of the network, the local presence for it. Some are what we call O&O, which mean owned and operated. I know of one station in town here, which is an O&O, that is owned by CBS, which is a big network. Fox, at the time, I don't think they had a lot of owned and operated. The Fox affiliate that I worked for at the time was owned by Clear Channel. And what would happen is that Fox would, to be a network, you would have to run a certain number of hours of their programming every week. The main one being prime time, Monday through, 7 days a week. I mean, there is no day off from that. And that you can't time shift their programs. You can't be like, well, we have something that we want to run at 8, so the show that's on at 8, we're going to go ahead and we're going to run that at midnight. You can't do that. But what is also, especially all TV stations, but especially the commercial TV stations, what they're really about is making money. That if they can sell out their show with the commercial inventory that they have, that's going to be really good. So a big part of that, some of that money that from the affiliate goes back to the network, and you're going to get shows that, that the affiliate is hoping is going to bring in big numbers in viewership, because big numbers in viewership, it means that the shows will probably continue on, but it also means more ad revenue. And that's really what it comes down to. For people who think that viewership means that's what the station wants, a commercial-owned station wants, that is absolutely not the case. What they're looking for is ad revenue. And so if a show still sells out but doesn't do that great in the ratings, then it's probably because it's doing pretty well financially and making money for the station. And so, like Fox, for those who watch American football, Fox runs a great deal of American football. Those are huge money makers for a station. Back in the day, this is once again 1995, 1996, for a local hardware store that was a big chain called Menards. They would run a 30-second ad because we're in Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings game. That 30-second ad back in 1996 was $10,000 for 30 seconds. I have no idea what it is now, and you can just take a little time and Google what the ad rates are for something like the Super Bowl, which is in the millions for a 30-second ad. It's big money, quite frankly. And so that's what we're working on here. And sometimes, and keep in mind on the Fox affiliate level, that Doctor Who was the Tuesday night movie, okay? It is, like I said, literally the Tuesday night movie. And that was a big deal back in the day. And the week before was a film called Tornado, which is just kind of an attempt at being a Twister-like film. They both came out same year. Tornado came out first with Bruce Campbell. Twister came out just a little bit afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. I'm a big severe weather guy, so I gobbled them both up. But yeah, so Doctor Who is part of the Fox Tuesday night movie.
It's been a worldwide hit for 30 years, and tonight, the sci-fi phenomenon comes to America in the Fox original movie, Doctor Who. For over 1,000 years, they've been mortal enemies. Now, these two time travelers from different worlds,
I'm half human,
one good, one pure evil, will face each other in a final duel to the death. And the battlefield is Earth.
This planet will be pulled inside out.
Paul McGann and Eric Roberts in the motion picture event of the year. Doctor Who on a Fox Tuesday night movie.
And if it did well, it would go into series. And so what I did was I went to my superiors and I just said, and I outed myself, which is not something at the time I felt super comfortable about, because I could see back in my grade school days, and you just need to watch the Five Doctors video, the Unearthly Child video, I bugged everybody about watching Doctor Who. And quite frankly, nobody wanted to do it. So I really, after a while, kind of kept it to myself. I had a lot of friends through the university and Doctor Who fandom. And it's like, I don't need to bring anyone in because I know what I love. And I have friends that will share it with me. But then I went to the head of, which was WFTC, who was the call letters. We're Fox Twin Cities, WFTC. And that's where I worked, and I went to the president, and I went to the head of promotions and head of sales and the graphic designer, and I said, if you want, I'm really into the show, and I can, help you guys in any way to promote it. I mean, that's something I'm useful for. And we decided to make a website. And I'm thinking, it's going to be a lot of work, but we can have like a menu with drop down and maybe each doctor and talking about previews, and I can write a little something every once in a while and put it up there and stuff. And the graphic designer who designed and created the look for the station, such as like the logo and stuff, which, at the time, and I think still to the case, television station logos are pretty cheesy. What they created was pretty incredible. Everything about what JD made was so smart, so good. And that's what also really made me proud to be a part of the station, because it looked different than everywhere else. We were the station that ran The Simpsons. We were the station that ran X-Files, Married with Children, American football, the NFL. There was something really incredible about what we were doing there. And the fact that Doctor Who was going to air there was like, if it was going to be on any network, Fox was where it should be at. So JD is like, I'll make a website. It's going to be great. And I'm excited. And he's like, and I knew how to make websites, by the way. Like, not great, but I knew how to make some. HTML was, for people to make their own, was very much in the infancy at that stage. But, we're all doing our thing. He's like, I got the website for you. Awesome. And I'm a nobody at this station. So the fact that anyone's even listening to me on any level is truly shocking. And go into where he does work, and he's busy all the time making stuff, and this was kind of at the point of going from computer graphic design to still doing it like with you have an X-Acto knife and you're cutting out who you want and all. It's just that kind of that period. And he shows it to me, and if I can find it on the Wayback Machine, I'll put it up here. But basically, the top says Doctor Who with a question mark, which right away I'm just like, and it kind of, I think it gave the date of when it's going to air, a picture of Paul McGann in the role, but the background was a tile. And what you could do, and I don't know if you could still do this, I hope not, is you could have like the smallest little square of some design, and then you could tile it throughout the whole website. And there was this question mark that was kind of 3D looking, and he tiled it back there, and it was just like, that was it. And he's just like, big smiles, what do you think? And I'm just like, yeah, it's horrible. But I didn't say that, because what are you going to do? At that point I was like, well, are we going to make a totally inclusive big website for the Tuesday night movie? No, we're not. As much as I would like to, have them spend days working on it when I have no authority to do so, and he's always busy. So, it's like, that's fine. That's fine. It's just like, because I'm telling all my friends, like, yeah, we're making a website for Doctor Who when it airs in May and Fox, yeah. Just letting everyone know. Just, look out for it. It's going to be pretty cool, Then afterwards, people are like, hey, did that website ever get made? No, we didn't do it. It's like, it's better to say, no, we didn't do it, than to actually be like, yeah, this is great. I looked at it once. I never looked at it again. And I don't even know if it was added. I think they were just humoring me, to be perfectly honest. I think, my time at Fox 29 was turbulent. I was at a stage that I wasn't exactly the greatest employee of all time, and I will be the first to admit it. And I cost that station thousands of dollars. And how can I cost a station thousands of dollars? Well, I was the guy who was responsible for making sure all the right commercials are in the right place during the shows. And it comes with what was called traffic instructions. It tells you when it runs. then they'll come back and they'll do like revisions real fast, and they'll try to do that because if you don't run the right spot, and they get like the list of all the stuff that aired, and everything is coded with what at the time's called an ISKI code. If like an ISKI code doesn't seem right in the dates, they'll come back to us and they'll want to make good. They won't pay for it, and if you're lucky, they could do a make good, or you end up writing them a check. And because stuff like a lot of stuff was out of flight, if you will, that means that there's a certain period that something runs. It's called a flight. And if it's out of flight, you're paying. And we paid. And I remember I made the general sales manager, she's a very no-nonsense but kind woman named Rwanda. And she was over my crap at one stage. I mean, quite frankly, they should have fired me multiple times. But she comes in and she's like because we shared an office with 4 other people in traffic. She comes in and she puts her hand on my wrist and she's like, I just got a call from forget which advertiser. In it, you once again ran the wrong spot. And when she was saying it, her voice was getting like she was clenching her teeth in sheer anger. And she was applying pressure to my arm, like to my wrist, like if she could break it, I think she would. And I laugh now. I don't know if she would laugh now, but it was kind of like, you know, I couldn't get it right. Eventually, I moved to the agency side where I was the one sending out the traffic instructions and the spots and stuff, and I was much, much better at that. But boy, and you know, you don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be after she left being like, well, I didn't do that right. No, I'd be like, oh man, I just can't seem to get this. But one of the things doing that particular position was that I worked a lot with master control. And for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure you do, master control is where all the output of the station comes from. And at the time, everything was either satellite based or it was tape based. So the satellite stuff would be stuff like the Fox every night. When Fox would start their nightly program, we would kind of, you'd have a switcher and you'd move the switcher over to now Fox is running. We would have our own commercial breaks during some of it. And that's where I'd have all these tapes, all these beta SP tapes, all these, with each one would have its own spot on it. And that's where they would keep all of the promotional tapes as well. Now, back in, I want to say January, but I'll have to take a look and see exactly when it was. I was watching X-Files one night. It's a Friday night. It's one of the rare occasions that I wasn't out on a Friday night. It's kind of true and not true. I don't know why I was actually home on a Friday night. You know, you're in your 20s. I was 22. So obviously I'm kind of all about partying and stuff, and it's something I used to really enjoy doing. But I was home and I had the X-Files on. Well, not a huge fan of the X-Files, but I enjoy it and it was on. And all of a sudden, the first 10-second preview, like promo of Doctor Who came on. You know, the Earth runs out of time. And it's just very quick. And I just sat there and watched the TV after, just like, it's happening. You know, you have that moment of like, you hear about it, you see it. And I want to say it's January of 1996 I saw it. It might be wrong. It might be later. But it was truly, it was beautiful, actually. Being a fan, and you know, last time Doctor Who was really on, I mean, I do count Dimensions in Time, but honestly, I'll go back to Survival, and like, this is actually happening. We've waited so long. You know, honestly, there's no reason why this show can't continue in perpetuity. You know, so the fact that we saw it was amazing, and jumping forward a little bit, once I knew that we were starting to get stuff, I would go, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about me sneaking around where I work. Please no, I'm not talking about anything financial or anything. That's no, but I knew where Promotions would keep like all their assets and stuff, and they kept so they kept it by film, the Tuesday night movie. They'd have a big thing of like what's coming up. They had purged this stuff every once in a while, and I went into their offices, which it was actually in a hallway. I wasn't going into anyone's personal space, and I was going through, and I found they didn't have a lot there, but I found let's see here, do I have it? Because I'm a little confused by what's what, because it's been so long. I found, and I think what I found was a glossy, a black and white glossy. And I didn't take it because the film hadn't aired, and I was just like, they need it for advertising purposes, for promotional purposes. But I took it to a Xerox machine, and I ended up, and let me see if I can find it here real fast. So much stuff. I ended up making a photocopy of it. That's kind of how, it's just like, because like, well, this will do me. And it actually really does. At the time, we did the website, and they must have got more pictures of them because JD was like, hey, you know what? I really want to thank you for doing this website with me and bringing it to our attention. I got something for you. And he gave me this, which was really from one of the, from some kit that they got. And eventually they also did give me the original to the photocopy I made. So I had that as well, which is kind of cool that I got that as well. And that was really neat. So, I try to find different things to get because that stuff was... I knew how stations worked. Stations are always looking at what's current. They don't hold an archive for stuff that they're not making. Like the BBC has an archive not only of television visual, but of, all, the written archives and all sorts of things. They have all that because they made it. But, something like The Simpsons, for example, being very popular, they're not having an archive. Fox 29 does not have an archive about all things Simpsons. They'll have an archive of the stuff that they made, like we used to have local programming and stuff. That's the archive they'd have. So I knew that eventually the stuff is just going to be thrown out, and I didn't want that because this was too good to allow to be thrown out. So in the timeline I'm thinking of here, saw the first promo, which didn't have a whole lot of Paul McGann in it. Starting to look for assets, and you got some stuff. And then I decided, because I had met Sean Lyon at Visions in 1995. And we got along really well. He's such a nice guy. And my friend Roger and I, we decided in 1996, it was announced that Philip Segal and Sylvester McCoy were going to be at Gallifrey that year with a slideshow, yes, a slideshow about Doctor Who, about what we're going to see in May. And I'm just like, I have to see this. And I've always wanted to go to LA. I wanted to check out the convention. So Roger and I went out to LA to Gallifrey. And we had a few days beforehand. So you talk about going to cities that have like this vibe, and Los Angeles had it, Hollywood had it, going to Universal Studios, which was before it really rebranded itself as like, trying to really compete with Disney. it was fantastic. And one of the memories about going to Universal Studios, one of the things I remember about my trip to Universal Studios is they had the tram. And the tram would take you all around the lot. And they said to us, we're going to take you into a sound stage because there's nothing going on in there. We'll take you through it. They took us through the sound stage. Do you know what sound stage this was? This was Stage 28. Now, for those of you who do not know, Stage 28 was a sound stage that Phantom of the Opera was shot on in 1925. And after the film wrapped, the Opera House set, which was gigantic and enormous and beautiful, was never taken down. It was there the whole time throughout all of these years. And I went in there, and those were still against the walls. Some of them had a big drapery around them, some didn't. And I saw history that day. And even the person driving the tram said, this is the stage that we hear that the ghost of Lon Chaney visits from time to time, and talked about Phantom of the Opera. I saw history. Now, this is before I was, for those of you who don't know, I do a nightly radio show about the paranormal. I'm on an AM station. This is well before I ever got into the paranormal. So I was just like, oh, sure. Now I'd be like, jumping off the tram and with all my little equipment, and they'd probably have to tackle me to get me back onto the tram. That was history. And I don't remember, 5 years ago or something now, Stage 28 was demolished to make room for more of the thrill rides of Universal Studios. They said, though, don't worry, the Phantom of the Opera stage will be delicately taken apart, put into storage, or might go on tour for people to see. We have never heard about that stage again. We've never heard about the Phantom of the Opera set ever again. I believe that was all completely destroyed. At that time, it was a 90-year-old set, and now I think it's completely destroyed. I have talked to experts about Phantom of the Opera, including Antonia Carlotta, who is the great granddaughter of Edward Lemley. She actually has lineaged back to the very beginning of Universal Studios, and I don't think she believes that set survived as well. Very sad. We also got a chance to go see a taping of the John Larroquette show, which we declined. I'm sure it's very good, but maybe if it was pain, maybe that'd be something else. So we go to Gallifrey, which was really fun, just a really fun convention. Back when it was a lot smaller, and not at Marriott. It's over in Van Nuys, this little like rinky-dink hotel. My favorite con memories are there. Wasn't always the greatest place, like safety-wise and whatnot, but to me, that's what Gallifrey is. Not post-new series stuff. This was it. This was truly, once it got bigger, I personally have no interest going out to that. And I took time away, and it just seemed like, for me personally, just a lot more clicks. It was harder to I'm not easy to make friends. I'm just an awkward person. But I just couldn't find, really, apart from people I knew there, to make new friends at all. So that's okay. But at this other place, which was by the Van Nuys Airport, we had this, once again, slideshow. And Cowboy Bob, who fairly recently had passed away, if I'm not mistaken, but Cowboy Bob, who ran Visions, he was there. And him and some other people were walking up and down the rows to make sure there was no recording devices or anything. I remember that. I mean, this is before, the cell phones and whatnot that are iPhones, but, audio recorders or anyone trying to take a picture or anything else. And at the front of the room is Philip Segal and Sylvester McCoy. And Philip Segal just starts with this. He goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, meet your new Doctor Who." And image of Paul McGann shows up on screen, and we all applaud because it's Paul McGann was dressed as a doctor the way that we expect the Doctor to be dressed, some sort of Victorian or Edwardian outfit, even though his outfit is actually meant to be a Wild Bill Hickok costume. It just, he clicks all the boxes. They make Paul McGann, wear this wig that is very, Einsteinish almost. And it just like what we all expect Doctor Who to look like. And so they're hitting that right there. We're getting some more slides and other stuff. Sylvester McCoy is talking about stuff as well. It was a fantastic thing. And another reason why we went out there, memory is getting a little jogged a little bit. We're trying to do a lot of conventions. Like, we're not like go to, but actually put on conventions. And by this point, the Whoniversity has dissolved. But we're still wanting to put on events. And we went out to talk to Philip Segal about coming to our event that summer called MediaLive. And so we talked to him afterwards. And we helped him. We got him to sign a contract or something like that. That didn't end too well, but that's okay. It's all in the past now. The problem is that having an event and saying Philip Segal, the executive producer of Doctor Who, at that point didn't mean anything to people because we had Doctor Who fans, but everything was so much smaller. And to get somebody like that who is an incredible guest, and he would have just nailed it, we just didn't have the interest in the Twin Cities at that time. And now you could, but it's hard to get those guests unless you really want to pay a lot of money, because there's a lot more now. The whole thing is different. My hat's off to Council Room for wanting to even attempt it. They're local to us here, and they're getting good guests. So, definitely, if you're in the area, check out. So, in late March, I think, or early April, I was getting, there's a guy named John McElroy, and he was known for photographs. You could get photographs of all your favorite Doctor Who people. Long before, you could go online to find photographs, but you wouldn't find a whole lot. Now, of course, you can find whatever you want. He would sell physical photographs. He'd go at the conventions, he'd sell it. He was a Brit that came over, and he lived in LA and stuff. And I wouldn't get merchandise from him. I would get videos from him. And we'll talk about this in other videos coming up, but I would get copies of stuff that hadn't made its way over here yet. And that would be like BBC video stuff, or even like just good quality off-air of stuff I didn't have in my own collection. I wanted episodic or whatever. I mean, you paid for it. It wasn't overly expensive, but I mean, it's still illegal. But far be it from me to ever tell people what's illegal when it comes to this stuff. You've heard enough of my videos and my stories to know that if it's something I want, it's something I'm going to get, and I don't really care. But one day I get a letter from him, and it's just, you open it up, and it's just like, I'm sending this only to a few people, which for all I know could have been everybody, but make it sound exclusive and stuff. People I trust, who I get send videos from. I have, and he didn't call it a rough cut, but it was a rough cut to the TV movie. And, if you want it, send me $25. I don't even think I finished reading the letter before I'm just writing out the check. I don't even know if I had the money, because I lived with my parents. Money, even though I had a decent paying job for that period of time, I really don't know if I never was really good with money. And so stuff like that, it'd be like, you think, sometime later when bills are being, checks are bouncing and you're not paying bills. But so when I got there, I was like, yeah, I want this. And I talked to my parents about it. I was like, oh, check this out. They're like, yeah, you're going to buy it, right? I'm like, absolutely. And a week later, and I didn't know what to expect, the rough cut shows up. And it's what we talked about earlier with, once again, all of the symbols and stuff on top to designate film roll and all that good stuff. And it's a compilation of the film, not too dissimilar. And I've run across a couple different versions of the rough cut over the years. And I think it was called Work in Progress. That's what they called it. In my world, it's called a rough cut. And I lapped it up. I mean, this isn't how the creators want you to see stuff. You know, this is never, if you were to tell someone who worked on it, like, yeah, I saw a rough cut, they're not going to applaud you. They're going to be angry with you because that is not the vision that they want you to see it as. And I understand that. And at the time, around that time, I was enjoying this. And I was asked by another Doctor Who fan club, the Celestial Affiliation of Time Lords. They were doing a Doctor Who day. And they wanted to know if I would, like, put together, which is, if you know me, one of my favorite things to do is put together a day of videos to run. And I said to them, if I edit down, I have this rough cut of the new TV movie. I mean, we've all been waiting for it. If I have a rough cut of the new TV movie and I edit it down to maybe, like, I think I only had it for like maybe 10, 12 minutes of it, would you be okay if we show this? And they're like, okay. And what we did is I edited it down, and if I could find it, I will digitize it and I will just throw it up on Patreon. For those who follow me and support me on Patreon, that'll be there for if you want to watch it. And I really only edited it to like the first commercial break. Because I wasn't going to show the ending or anything. I didn't want to ruin it completely, but I wanted to give a little bit of a taste because the one thing that really stuck with me was the way that the Doctor, as played by Sylvester McCoy, was shot when he walked out of the TARDIS. I'd never seen anything like it in Doctor Who. I'm not a fan of that sort of thing, but it was like, this is something that people, I think, I'd like to see their reaction to. So before we showed it, we just kind of had this like announcement. It's like, okay, we're going to show this rough cut to the TV movie. It's only going to be about 10 minutes of it or so. There's a room over here. If you don't want to watch it, come with us. We'll just hang outside of the video room so that it doesn't get ruined for us. So some got up and they left, and I totally respect that. And others stayed. Now, me being dumb, because I just think about this now and I still cringe over it. It just, like, I don't know what I was trying to do there. I wanted to see the reaction. So there's a TV, and there's like, it's up a little bit higher. So I just sat in front of the TV, not in the way of what's being seen. Like, I'm below it because it's that high up. And I just sat there watching their reactions. And it's kind of like, well, that's dumb. I mean, it's like, it was just dumb. I just don't think it probably made people uncomfortable. But that was the seed for me to want to get back and doing something that eventually became the Minnesota Doctor Who Viewing Society. But I don't call that the first one. There's another one I call the first one. But I made like a little like book, like not even a book, but like, and I'll show you with one of the Minnesota Doctor Who Viewing Society ones, like 8.5 by 11, folded in half, and it was just like a little program for people to see what's going to be running that day. They didn't ask me to do this, so why am I doing this? I mean, and I'm laying it out, and I'm putting this together Friday night before this event. I'm printing out like, 100 of these things. At going to Kinko's, probably cost like $60-some at the time to do it, and because they'll also put it through and fold it and everything, and bring I remember it's a box of these things going up, and like I think the total for the day, and I think it might even been more than 100 I made. I think the total for the day of people who turned up were like 15. There's no reason to expect that it'd be any more than that, so I'm not quite sure why I made so many, but there it is. I'm going to see if I can find one. You would think after all this time I would still have some because I made, many. So we'll see if I have them or not. So as we're going through this, more stuff is coming to us for Doctor Who. And at that time, something really interesting came down, because don't forget, we're getting satellite feeds from Fox, and not just for their programming, but also for stuff that we should be recording to use for later use. One of them being, that I found out, was promos for Doctor Who, for the new movie. And I already grabbed what we had from our station, because we had like a 30-second promo, and I think this is the one that actually had a piece from the original series in it, and that's from Trial of a Time Lord.
After 30 years as a worldwide hit, Doctor Who comes to America in a spectacular motion picture event.
This planet will be pulled inside out.
May 14th, Fox presents Paul McGann
I'm half human on another side.
and Eric Roberts
This won't hurt much.
in the greatest adventure of this century and the next.
Finally meet the right guy and he's from another planet!
Doctor Who, a Fox original movie, Tuesday, May 14th.
I walk into Master Control, because I'm always in there, and they knew, I mean, everyone there knew I loved Doctor Who, and I didn't really say that to them so that it'd keep their eye out open for me, but I'm glad I did, because they're just, Donna, who worked in there at the time, she's just like, oh, we got some promos coming down for Doctor Who, do you want me to record them? And I said yes, and we recorded them onto Beta SP, and then I took that Beta SP, because I knew how to use the equipment really well. You know, I knew how to set up the signals and everything, and the graphs and stuff to get the best look out of the tape. And I would dub it down to VHS. So I had that one beta that had the one promo on it, and then I had this other one. And one of the things that was included with those promos was the electronic press kit, which right there was like, this is gold. You know, this is something that I did not expect to get at all. And I recorded that onto VHS as well. It was really exciting. It's, you know, it's like, because I had to give back the beta tape because they needed it for their own use. But I thought, this is fantastic. This is really nice to have. And then my friend Wayne, part of Celestial Affiliation of Time Lords, he said to me that he wrote into Fox saying he's a Doctor Who, that he is part of a Doctor Who fan club. And they sent him back a kit, a media kit. And he said, you should do so. And so I did that. I sent a letter to them. And I said I was part of the University, which is long gone now. And they sent me back a kit. And this had been missing for a very long time. And once again, it's the Fox Tuesday night movie here. And some of the things that was really very cool is that there's all of these... let me grab this stuff real fast. All of these wonderful... and I'm looking at another screen, that's why I'm not looking at you. It helps me to see. All this information about the TV movie coming out, including just... a little bit about, just in general, about the film. Let's see here. Production credits, when it's going to air, where it was shot. All that stuff is pretty cool. And then, let's see here. Production notes. You know, I don't know if Tornado got this. I really don't know. I would think... And this production notes thing of Doctor Who here... 11 pages. This is 11 pages. Which is funny because then we have the history of Doctor Who. And that is only 6 pages. So I'm sure a lot had been dumped over there. And then just Doctor Who facts. You got some Doctor Who facts here. Let's see here. Let's see. Seeing if there's anything here that we don't know. No, I think we know all this. But it's still pretty cool all the same. We got an endless An endless list of high-profile English actors and Doctor Who fans made guest appearances throughout the show's lengthy run. Most notable to American viewers is John Cleese of Monty Python fame, and the Beatles performed Ticket to Ride in an episode of Chase in 1965. Well, if you got the collection, you don't have them. Let's see here. Talk about Paul McGann and the other stars. So, I mean, this is pretty cool. Then I have more glossy stills from that period of time, which were really, really cool. And then we end it all with this, which I think is pretty amazing. And what's pretty amazing about this is you got 35 millimeter slides. And these 35 millimeter slides are really unique. They're very unique. These are definitely Fox Broadcasting. Just one of those things that you can see some of the imagery there. Nothing that we haven't seen. Okay, folks. Nothing. Don't write me and be like, well, if you got these, there's nothing you haven't seen. I guarantee that. Ooh. No, I'm just kidding. There's still nothing you haven't ever seen. The thing about this, though, is that I took it to Brown Photo. It's a place that used to be around that would do this stuff, like develop this stuff. I took it to Brown Photo and I said, "Can I get these turned into glossies?" Once again, apparently cost was no object for me, and they said, "No, you're not the copyright owner." And I'm like, that sucks, but it makes sense. So I go back into the station, and I said to them, "Yeah, they won't." I got these, and I explained how I got them. I said they won't develop them because I'm not the copyright owner. And the people I talked to said, "Well, write up something on a Fox 29 letterhead, saying that we are the affiliate and we need it for promotional purposes, and I'll sign it." This person said, "I'll sign it, and you can take it to Brown." And I did all that. It was on everything. I took it to Brown, and they're like, "Sorry, we can't do that." They still couldn't do it. I'm like, all right. So these never got developed, but I kept them, obviously. Now, I have a really good memory about where I get stuff, and this is really pretty amazing for me. I love this. What I don't quite understand is where I got the second one from. I have two of these. Same thing. Only thing it doesn't have is slides. Only one has the slides. So I just and I only realized that today because I was finding all of my stuff, and I suddenly was like, well, what's in this Fox Tuesday Date Movie folder? Apparently the same thing. So very interesting, isn't it? So this is where things for me got very interesting. Every Saturday and Sunday, since I didn't live too far from the station, I did something that Master Control knew about, but nobody else I worked with knew about. I'd go in, and we had the entirety of Star Trek The Next Generation on Beta SP tapes, a complete library of them, from the first episode to the last, including the original electronic press kit and promos and stuff. I'd come in every Saturday, and I would record episodes to VHS for my own collection. And then at the same time, I would also record The Simpsons, because it would be what we call a strip, Monday through Friday in syndication, and a bunch of episodes would come down, and I'd just record them directly from the Satellite tape. And that was really cool. And when I did The Next Generation, because the volume is so great, I would run 4 VTRs, which were videotape recorders, but they were half-inch, meaning VHS, and 4 beta tapes at the same time. And they would each run, so I'd be recording 4 episodes at once. I'd have the sheet that tell you what time the commercial breaks would happen. So I'd have to keep track of what machine was doing what, so I could stop the machine and let the 2 minutes of black, because it was actually the full commercial length in black, and then start up the recorder, so I didn't have 2 minutes of black or whatever it was during segments of the show. it was an insanely amount of time wasted doing this, but it was something I really wanted to do at the time. In this case, it was good I did so, because I'm there working. It's May 11th, and the master control person comes to me, and she's just like Donna again. Donna was one of the sweetest people I've ever known. And she comes to me, she goes, I remember that you like Doctor Who. I don't know what this is. Take a look. And I go in, and it's color bars, because before a feed will start, color bars will be on for quite some time and telling you kind of what it is. It said Doctor Who, tape 1 of 2. And I'm just like, I don't know what this is, but can we record it? Because I had in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, is this the film? The film's supposed to be airing that Tuesday, so what is this? And she's like, sure. And we got beta tapes, and started recording it. And then sure enough, a slate comes up, and not a VT clock. It's a slate, meaning because it's static, and it just says Doctor Who anthologies. Like, in my mind, I'm like, that proves that it's going to become a series, because I've not heard that, and yeah, whatever. Doctor Who anthologies, and we recorded it, and it was in 2 parts. It was sent down via satellite in 2 parts, with commercial breaks that would, unlike Star Trek: The Next Generation, would just be a dip in and a dip out of black, and it was amazing. We recorded this on beta, and immediately I grabbed a VHS tape and I recorded it to VHS at the station. And I thought to myself, I have this on VHS, and this is pristine. It's beautiful. No Fox logo in the corner, no commercials, and the end credits, because when Fox eventually shows it, they squish the credits. This is a completely beautiful recording of this movie, and I have it on VHS. And I'm like, I still would like to have it on beta. I recorded these, and the idea was to give the beta tapes back. And, I just told Dawn, I'm like, I'll give them back in a bit. I just want to kind of make sure that I have a good recording. So she's no problem. And I was just like, you know what? I want to really have an archive of this. So, as one does, I kept the beta tapes. This is segment 1. This is the second segment. I'm trying to remember, because I think coming back to the second part of the feed is an ambulance. I think the ambulance chase or whatever. This is, I own Doctor Who, and this is broadcast quality. This is maybe not so much these days, but this is, if we recorded it to air, this is what we would have put it on anyway. So I am very happy, and this tapes weren't played only once. We'll talk about that in a minute here. So I record this recording, and once again, it's May 14th when this airs. You can imagine I've watched this, I watched this a number of times as a rough cut. Now I'm watching it between May 11th and May 14th. I'm surprised I haven't worn out the tape by this point. I really watched it a billion times. But anyway, and I got a really nice Scotch tape for this to put it on. But then I had to go over to Wayne McLeod's house. And I just want to say, Wayne gets mentioned a few times here. Bless you, Wayne. Wayne had passed away a couple of years ago. I think actually in 2021 due to COVID. And he's very much missed. He was a very good friend of mine. And Wayne had, I don't know why I had to go over to Wayne's, and because he's not close to me. And he had another person over, a friend who was in Doctor Who as well. And I just couldn't help myself to explain the good fortune I had that day of recording this sought-after movie before it even airs on Fox. And I'm just so excited about it. And I just, I'm telling both of them, and this guy looks at me, and because I had the tape with me, because I had to bring it with me, I guess. And he's like, I'll give you $100 right now if you give that to me. And before I could even say yes or no or whatever, Wayne's just like, no, he's not going to do that. And I think that's always funny. But it's very, it's kind of looking out for me. I'm glad I did, because honestly, I might have done it because I knew I could have made another dub. But it's good that I didn't do that. But it made me laugh because before I could even answer, no, he's not going to do that. So, but I need the money. So the night of the airing, May 14th, when it actually airs on Fox, that's what I call the first Minnesota Doctor Who Viewing Society, because we invited people over, and this is where we're going to have it anyway, at Roger and Roger's apartment in Brooklyn Center. We were going to have it there going forward anyway, as it happens. But we invited a bunch of people I've never even seen before, to come over and watch it. And I offered, do you just want to play it from my VHS tape? There'll be no commercials. And everybody, I think rightly so, said, no, we want to watch it live. And I think that's wise. There is something about watching something like that live on the air that makes it real. And so I ended up, from the station, there's stuff called station logs. And what the log is, it tells you how long each segment for the show is. And then when it goes to commercial breaks, it tells you what commercials are going to be on during the breaks. And why I printed that out for the night, and I brought it with me. And the reason why I did that, because during the commercial breaks, we brought a lot of food. Everyone brought food. There was KFC. It was all sorts of good stuff. And so when I brought that, the whole purpose was I could tell people when the last commercial was, what it was going to be, and then we could all kind of calm down and get back to the movie. A lot of fun. There had to have been about 20-some people there that night. Just incredible. And so the next morning, I go into the station. And what they always had at the station, I think in the copy room or something, they had a bulletin board, and someone would always post up the ratings from the night before. And I was going in, and I was like, I can't wait to see where Doctor Who's at. Once again, I've always had this ability to not understand reality when it comes to Doctor Who. So I'm starting at like number 1 in the ratings, like, okay, where's Doctor Who? Where's Doctor Who? Where's Doctor Who? Doctor Who, where are you? Just going on until I get into the 70s as far as placement in the Twin Cities. It's not a national, and it's local. And so like local shows will also show up there. Doctor Who was like 78th, something like that for the night. 78th. I thought it would have been like, I probably thought it would be like in the 10th. And it was local Britcoms that aired at 10 p.m. that night got better ratings than Doctor Who did. And I remember going out to the main lobby of the station, and the receptionist, Marilyn, was there. And she, everyone knew I was a big Doctor Who fan. And she actually almost looked hurt at looking at me. She goes, "What happened?" Because she saw the ratings. We always look at the ratings. What happened? I don't know. She said, you said this was going to be good. And I'm like, well, it was good. She goes, I turned it off after 5 minutes. I had no idea what happened. You start off with one guy and he changes into another. I got confused. I said, forget it. Okay. I liked it. And it didn't help that you run stuff in May, and this is during sweeps, right? Sweeps being the way that stations are able to kind of figure out what they're going to charge advertisers per time period and show and all that stuff. And basically that night you had the NBA Finals, and Chicago Bulls were playing, which is huge back in the 90s. Michael Jordan was playing, and it was on a national level, and it was just huge. And I think, I don't know if it's I don't think it was the finale to Roseanne. I think it was the one where Dan has a heart attack, if I'm not mistaken. So big episodes, big shows. Doctor Who didn't stand a chance. It probably would have actually done better if it aired the week before when Tornado aired. It was a real dose of reality, and one that I don't like, actually. That was really actually painful after all that. That was really unfortunate. For about a few days later, right, something happened that was very sad. And that was the death of Jon Pertwee. And that was, for a lot of us. And John had been a lot of conventions that I've been at. He's been everywhere. I mean, I first met him in 1988, and it was really sad. And once again, I'm at work, and I live with my parents, and Wayne called my house, and I wasn't home, and so he left a message with my mom. And my mom, it was never good at leaving, taking messages. If it was anything more than so-and-so called, that's fine. But anything more than that would be kind of difficult because she didn't know the people and she didn't understand. So I get home to a message and she's just like, Wayne called John, John Puree. I knew who she was talking about, but I'm just like, oh my God, that's horrible. And that was like the first, death of a doctor since 86 since 87 with Patrick Troughton. And very sad. Very sad. It was sad to miss him. And so when the TV movie finally aired in the UK, I think May 27th, 1996, there was a dedication for Jon Pertwee before the film started. And I'm not so sure because Jon Pertwee, I don't think he would like the fact that the Doctor kissed anyone, because John was always all about the Doctor being an extremely wholesome character.
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
Sometime afterwards, I went to a party. I think it was, once again, another Celestial Affiliation, a Time Lord thing. They were one of the only Doctor Who groups around at that time. And I remember there was this guy there who just, you get those people at these events, and it's okay. They don't understand how television works. They don't understand how networks work or how anything works. They just see it and they just think that they see it and that's really all there is to it. And I just remember, I always laugh at this, that this guy is just like, the reason why the new Doctor Who failed is, right? And I'm like, no, I don't. He goes, and he does it just like this, because it wasn't shown on PBS. Like Oliver Hardy over there, and it's like, it was never going to be shown on PBS. But you couldn't tell him that. He thought he knew it all. Like, that was the problem. If only KTCA showed Doctor Who, we'd be in this series right now. No. But it's funny. It's funny that, people think that way. And it's stayed with me all these years. I still remember it very well. And how he knew it all. All right, he knew it all. That's fine. And then, of course, you have Ian Levine, if I get this story correct, because I think a lot of us, we get set in our norms of how Doctor Who should be. And this thing had no title. And, I didn't want to call it Doctor Who myself either. But I think Ian Levine had asked Philip at something or whatever, what is this thing called? And I think off the top of his head, Philip said, The Enemy Within. And I took that as gospel. I mean, the executive producer said that's what it's called. Yeah, I'm in. But it's it's, I don't think it's quite right. I was making covers. I just had Illustrator on my machine, on my computer, learning how to use it. So I started to make VHS covers. And I for the longest time, for the last few years, I keep wondering why people who make book covers and DVD covers for the new series, why they make them before they even see the episodes. And I get it now, because I did the same thing with my horrific Doctor Who The Return VHS cover that I made. It's a Fox Television movie. You know, it's for what it is. It's not horrible, just not good. And then my own thing in the back here. And the thing is that I hadn't seen it yet, but you have this creative sort of fire in you, and you need to expel that somehow. And you end up creating covers and creating creative artwork that really work for it. And this was mine. The difference with a lot of people I see making covers now, of course, is that they have skills. Maybe I would if I would do it, but certainly not like this. This is horrible, but compared to what I was making for the classic series at the time, this is considered to be, this is basically Lee, as far as I'm concerned at the time, is because that's how good I thought I was with this, and that's not the case at all. But it's funny to look back on that stuff. I think shortly after the film was broadcast, I saw online that John Debney, through his website, he was selling the soundtrack to the TV movie. And once again, let's be very clear about this. I clearly didn't care about paying bills, because I recall that I was going to pick this up immediately, and I did, folks. This is what I got. I got this in 1996. If I recall, this was advertised as a promotional CD, and in my mind, meaning that there wasn't going to be many of it left. It's a great CD. I think it's really, really good. And like many things in my life, I had lost this, and in this big old house. And when I was figuring out, I'm looking down here because this is where I keep all my Doctor Who soundtracks, and pretty much soundtracks for everything that I collect. I couldn't find this. So I went to eBay wondering if I could find these still, because I was under the impression that these weren't going to be around very long. Well, they seem to be around all over the place. And I ended up getting a second one. And this is still sealed. I didn't really realize it till today. Today has just been a big day for me, I guess. I didn't realize it until today. And I think the thing that I find very interesting about this, like I said, it's still sealed, but look at it. It's different. The TARDIS is different on it. If you look at the spine, the spines are a little bit different on them too. Now, I've had in the past getting one of these, something from like a Doctor Who soundtrack new, and it's shrink wrapped like this, and it's a different type of shrink wrap than you'd get from something professionally made. Because a professional one, I think, would have the folds that you could easily open up. This is just kind of like bound around. I wonder if this is a bootleg, actually. And I find it very interesting. I don't want to open it up, though. That's the thing. I just don't want to open up and find out. But I kind of think that it's a possibility that this is a bootleg. Now, if anyone... So once again, here are the two versions. And the big change is the TARDIS. The one on the top is the one that is... oh my God. The one on the top is the original. This one came from the John Debney site. Is the one on the bottom, is that also? If anyone has the one that looks like this, could you let me know if it's a burn? Or if it's legit? Because maybe it's legit, and maybe they just... They put it out again, and they just change things up a little bit. Anything is possible. So let me know. I'm very curious about that. I'd love to know what you all know about that. So talking about a little bit about this tape, when it came time for me to collect all of these around me, I wasn't in a hurry to get this because I already had the best possible quality that I could get for this, and it's going to be better than this. As we're going to talk about, this is edited, So, everything about it was just kind of like, nope, I'm going to hold off. And it took a long time for me to actually pick this up. And we'll get more in detail with this in a bit here. The thing to remember about this, which is very important, and we're going to talk about this a little bit further down, is how big of a change this is from everything else that's come before it. This is a massive change for the VHS. This is a new rebranding. We've talked endlessly about new rebrandings, but it starts here. And it starts here, and it takes a while to really kind of find its feet. But it does, and I would love to point you all to the War Machines video I did that really gives a lot of, I think, very good information about the rebranding. And also even an Unearthly Child video where we talk about the different stages of rebranding. But with this coming out, it really is a death knell for a lot of Doctor Who titles. I want to talk about that here in a second as well. It was only a matter of time that like DVD came out, like you could get burned DVDs of stuff, and almost immediately I knew people at production houses in town here, editorials and whatnot, and I sent over my beta SP tapes, and I had DVDs made. But I want to also mention, before the DVDs, which the quality is outstanding, I want to take a step back and talk about Gallifrey. It just reminded me of something. When I had before I had the DVDs made, years beforehand, I sent these tapes and got better VHS quality dubs made from the tapes using the editorial equipment from places in town here. But I didn't make one. I made a couple. There were Super VHS tapes I made because I was getting into Super VHS and I needed to play the tapes to record a Super VHS. I had no way to do so, but the places I was working with, I was partnering with, they would do it for me. And I had 2 tapes made, one for myself and one for a friend. And so what I ended up doing is I sent one of the recordings to this friend. And my standard, when I have VHS tapes and I make dubs, or if I get in a tape and it's not this way, I'll do it, is I will take out the recording tab so I can't record over it. But if I'm sending it to somebody, I'm not going to take out their tab because I don't know how they want to do it, and I just don't want to just add it. I just don't want to make assumptions on their part. So I sent it with the recording tab in, meaning that if someone hit record on it, they're going to tape over it. Who would do that? I sent it to my friend as a little surprise because this person does nothing but give me incredible content for years. And I thought, I can give him something for once. For once, I can give him something. So I sent it to him. He is elated. He is absolutely elated. He's heard about this recording. And he was just so excited. And probably at the time I made him a dub of the VHS dub I made, but not, of this quality. And he was excited. He put into the VCR, but instead of hitting play, he hit play and record, or however he did it. All I know is that he hit record, and he started recording over the TV movie Super VHS dub that I made for him. And he stopped it. He soon realized what he did, but it was a little bit out of the opening that he recorded over. And he felt horrible about it. And I was just like, well, if I can, I'll certainly get you another one, get another one made. But then that's when, not too much longer, a few years later, making DVDs was commonplace. And I sent the tapes back over again, these Beta SP tapes over again, and had DVDs created, which I still use. Those are actually my main version of watching the TV movie, are those DVDs, because they're at the right frame rate for how it was made, and they don't have the PAL slowdown, because they were made for an NTSC US viewing. So I'm, I'm happy about that. But then around that time, something else happened that I thought was really interesting. I was such a collector at that point in particular, and I'd never seen anything like it, and I really haven't seen it too often since. And that was, and I was into Laserdiscs. The TV movie was released in Hong Kong as a Laserdisc. And I saw it listed on eBay. And I think the theme here is, how did I afford any of this? I didn't care. Living at home was a massive help, but if I saw it, I was getting it. You know, I've always kind of lived with the belief that nothing is around forever. So if you're going to want it, go for it and figure out how to make it work. I mean, there's differences to it. If I wanted a new car, it doesn't work that way. But something like this, which was pretty expensive at the time. And I had it, and once I moved and got into this house, it disappeared. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And I was really bummed out because you cannot buy this. You cannot find this. I have only seen it one other time in 30 years. And at that point, the amount that it was going for was ridiculous. It was pretty ridiculous back in the day when I got it. And I couldn't find it. And it's gone. And I'm so upset about it. And it's like, you could talk about it. I could tell you I had it. But unless you see it, then how do you know for certain? I just wish that I had it. Oh, here it is right here, actually. Yeah, no, this is the Laserdisc to Doctor Who. And he's back. It's about time. It's pretty incredible. You've probably seen pictures of it. And then this is the back of it. And this is, these things all are the same. But this is truly a very rare piece of Doctor Who. And I won't even play it because it's rare. And because I've seen it. I don't need to see it. But it's... I'm so happy I found this. I found this... I want to say I found it like last fall. And after looking and finding... It was roughly where I thought it might have been. But I had to move a lot of stuff to get to it. And there it was. And I'm so happy. So happy that I have this again. Because it is such a wonderful, rare piece of Doctor Who that it's so much fun to just have it. And I don't need it to watch it, to enjoy it. So I was very happy about that. And also before, and I just remember this because we talked about earlier about news and information, and at this point we do have an internet, but the world, it wasn't nearly as connected as it is now. Like if a Doctor Who star shows up on a TV show, you're gonna know about it now. Word's gonna get around. Back then, it was a lot of hearsay. So I remember there was like a post going around that people were believing, including myself, that Paul McGann was on a TV show in the UK, more of a local show, and talking about a new project, but they asked about Doctor Who, and he said, absolutely, it got greenlit, we're going to go into production, there's going to be a series made. And people are asking, do you have like stills? Do you have like anywhere that we could see this or anything? And no one, and it was something that a lot of people believed. I believed. After a few years, you're like, I don't think this is happening. You're not hearing anything else. But it was incredible. Now, around that time, and I forgot when, I thought it was a little bit later, but I looked it up. Also, what made me think that we have a good chance of getting Doctor Who, and this is once again where I do kind of parlay this with the current situation. When people see that the BBC has interest in talking about Doctor Who, that immediately means to them that it's coming back, it's just really soon. I had that back in 96 and 97 when Radio Times was running a weekly comic strip with the Paul McGann Doctor called Dreadnought with Cybermen. And I thought, well, why are they going to the trouble of doing this comic strip if they're not going to do a new show? In my mind, that's how it works. It's not how it works, but that's what it was. Folks, when it comes to the Doctor Who stuff currently, just don't set yourself up to be really disappointed. I think it's going to take time. And it took time for this. I mean, think about this. 1996 to 2005. But we heard about it coming back in 2003. I had given up hope completely. I just didn't think it was coming back at all. But those Radio Time things are very interesting. Now, one of my favorite things to do with this film is the fact that it came out on DVD, in 2002? I think it came out on DVD. And I remember that on the technical forum, on the Doctor Who Restoration Team site, the technical forum, Steve Roberts one day had asked, does anybody have a copy of the electronic press kit? We'd really want it to be, though, in a broadcast quality like a Beta SP or something like that. And I had the VHS. Remember I mentioned I recorded the VHS. But I like to challenge myself, and I thought I'd do one better. I worked for Best Buy, which, for those who don't know over there at the time, is the largest consumer electronics store. I mean, it's still pretty big. And we did all of our broadcast buying in-house. And broadcast buying is, we have people at Best Buy who are working with people like Fox to place Best Buy commercials so that they would air where we want them to, and we'll pay the money for it. A friend of mine, Brenda, who worked there, she was really a nice lady, and she had been into business by that point like 30-some years. She knew a lot of people. And so I saw this on the technical forum, and I thought, I think I could do better. And I go over to Brenda, and I said, I'm just curious. Do you think your contact at Fox could get me the electronic press kit to Doctor Who? Once again, I felt like I had to come out, like, there's something I really like called Doctor Who, and explain why it's needed, stuff like that. And she's like, let me see what I can do. Literally about a week later, what shows up addressed to me is this. Now, what you're looking at here is not a dub of the electronic press kit. This is the master to the electronic press kit. This is basically when this was sent out to me. There is now a hole in their library for the electronic press kit for Doctor Who. And once again, I sent it to my friends in other places to make copies. I had a Digibeta copy made for myself, and I had a Digibeta copy made for Steve Roberts, and I overnighted it. Well, actually, I don't think I overnighted it to the BBC. I think I sent it over to BBC Worldwide, Karen Parks in LA, because they had like either a nightly or weekly shipment between London and LA, and I just sent it to them, and they sent it to Steve. And so basically what happened is I have the master tape to the electronic press kit. I'm going to be very honest. I had no intention of returning it. And why, you might be like, well, for God's sake, why would you be like that? Very simply, if this stuff gets purged, this tape is still existing to this day. It would not exist to this day if I didn't keep it. I am positive of that. They might keep once again, stations, or the Universal might have the elements for the film itself. This is Fox, and like WFTC, where I said that they pretty much only care about their stuff. With the amount of stuff they make, they can't keep everything. They can't keep all the tapes. So they're going to purge. They're going to purge at some point. And that's what's going to happen here. And so I made the decision to keep this tape because I felt like that, number one, I wanted it. And secondly, I really wanted to have a master for this. And no one has ever followed up with me about it. And I don't think anyone cared. And that's all that matters. Because that right there, if someone someone had reached out to me at the time and said, we see that you have our master tape for this, can you please return it? No problem. This was 23 years later, 22 years later, 23 years later. No one's ever contacted me about it, and they had my information. I'm not too terribly worried about it, and I wanted to hold on to it. So if you have the DVD or the Blu-ray, because I think it's also on the Blu-ray, for the electronic press kit, that came from me. I was actually able to provide something to the Doctor Who DVD range, and I think a lot of us, as fans, we want to be able to provide something to Doctor Who, almost like a give back. You don't get famous from it. What you do, though, is you're able to provide something for others to enjoy, and that's what I wanted to do with this. So I provided that, and I got a complimentary copy of the DVD when it came out, and I got a letter saying that this is thank you for your contribution. That was really fun. I really liked it, and that clips of the electronic press kit had turned up, I think, in Ed Stradling's documentaries about the period of time and other things, and I thought, boy, you know what? That's really neat. I made an impression. And I got them some broadcast quality electronic press kit, and I was really happy about that. It's one of the things I'm very proud of with my time being part of Doctor Who, that I could have that and I could provide it, and I'm just really, really excited about it. There's one other thing that had always wanted and really wish I could get, and I don't know if any of you have seen this before. The night of the premiere, they held a premiere at a theater for the TV movie. And I can't remember exactly what date that was. But I think it was prior to the broadcast of the film. And so they had like Paul McGann there. Well, they may not have Paul McGann there. They certainly had Sylvester McCoy there. Philip Segal was there. It was put on by Fox, and they handed out to everybody at this premiere a TARDIS tin. And in the TARDIS tin was some small booklets about the movie, probably very similar to what was in which was in my folders that I showed you, but also a VHS of the film itself. And once again, before it aired, and it took until 2011 before the film showed up anywhere in the US to get an official release. I mean, that's incredible, and I never saw anyone have a copy of it. I want to say it was, 2022 or 2023. I am at Council Room and the Doctor Who convention, and once again, folks, you can get my live presentation about the War Games through Patreon that I did at Council Room. I'm at Council Room doing this panel about Doctor Who on VHS. Like we're all just having a discussion about it and stuff. And a gentleman in the front row says, yeah, I ended up getting the TARDIS tin. Like, yeah, good for you. I got one too. Trial of a Time Lord. Obviously I wasn't rude like that. Shockingly, really. I'm like, TARDIS tin, you mean Trial of a Time Lord? It's like, no, it's something else, but it came in a TARDIS tin. And it hit me. And anyone who was at that panel could attest that suddenly I shifted. I shifted. And I'm just like, a TARDIS tin? Is it the TV movie? He goes, yeah, it says Doctor Who on it, you know. And I was like, wow, where did you get this from? I think I know what you're talking about. And it was only given out at the premiere, to my knowledge, to the premiere of the TV movie in 1996. Yeah, well, I found it at Savers. Now, Savers is like a step above a Goodwill, but it's a lot of just like consignment stuff that is like shipped out all around the country. And so the Savers, he's like, I got it at Savers, and it was $2.50. I'm just like, $2.50. Wow. I said, do you know what you have? He goes, no, I don't. I said, do me a favor. If you ever sell it, don't sell it cheaply because it's worth money. I mean, I do want it, but I'm not going to be like, yeah, well, I'll give you $10 for it. I said, this is very unique and very hard to find. And he said, well, would you like me to bring it in tomorrow? Would you like to take a look at it? I'm like, I would love that. And so the next day, he comes in with this, and sure enough, it's beautiful condition. It has all the stuff to it, and you know, he got the price tags on the bottom is like $250 or whatever it was. And how it ended up at the Savers in Minnesota, I will not be able to tell you. But I looked at him, I said, I'll give you $700 for it right now. And you could see he's, once again, I clearly don't understand economics. It's worth money. I don't think it's worth $700, but I wanted it. I mean, look at me, for God's sake. Of course I wanted it. And once again, I've only seen it available on eBay like once. I'm sure someone's going to email me and it's like, well, I saw it about 20 times. So I'm just like, that's what I want. And he's like, well, I could use the money. He creates beautiful props. And he's like, well, I could use the money. But he's like, you know what? I'm going to hold on to it. And I said, I get it. No problem. I took some pictures of this thing. And I said, can you do me a favor? Could you allow me first decline on this thing? If you decide to sell it, I'd like to have the opportunity to either buy it or not buy it. He's like, sure. I don't know, probably about 6 months later, he reaches out to me. And he's just like, would you still give me $700 for it? My finances had changed considerably at that point. And I'm like, I can't. I said, I wish I could, but I can't. But I offer him something. And it's nowhere near $700, but it's, I think, very generous. And we hailed back and forth a little bit. He's not trying to screw me over at all. He's being very fair. I'm not trying to screw him over either, because I think what he has is super unique and wonderful. And he and I agreed on a price. And I went to a ATM, and I went out to where council room is held, even though it wasn't being held there, met him there, and we did the transaction. And so I am very happy to say that I am an owner of this pretty rare. Once again, I know damn well when this video comes out that people are like, I have 7 of them in my house. But, you know, for the longest time, I thought this was no different than what the TARDIS tin looks like. And they're not the same. They don't look the same at all. But, you know, on there, it literally says, May 14th, 1996, Fox Tuesday Night Movie. I bet there isn't a tin for Tornado. I should look for that. Anyway, I'm sorry. I got the price completely wrong from Savers. It's actually $2.99. He made, is that housewares and toys? They really didn't know what to look at. It's not a very well-made tin. You got to be a little bit careful with it. He did all right from me. Let's just put it that way. He really did all right from me. We'll open it up. I don't know how much of this I'm going to take out. It's not easy to get out. But you do have... Oh, my God. You do have the movie on VHS. I'll play a little bit of it for y'all, but I did digitize it when I got it, and there really isn't anything to it. Yeah, it's a little bit stuck, so I'll have to later off when I'm not recording. I will put this all back together because it does take some concentration. But so you have the TV movie, which is pretty cool. I like that. Like, this is literally the first U.S. VHS, like legal VHS of the TV movie, but it wasn't meant for sale. Within it, then you have, the glossies just never end. And it's clearly that these are really the only glossies that were made, because this is what I have in my other press kits. And then this Doctor Who book that, honestly, it's production notes, cast, everything. It is literally what I went through in that folder for you all. But this is put into a book form. I love this. Did I pay too much for it? Possibly. I don't care. I love this. I can't believe I have this after all these years. Knowing about it when the TV movie aired, knowing that this existed, that people had it, that now I have it to add to my collection. Of course I want it. And I wasn't going to do a video on the TV movie until I was able to know whether or not I can get his copy, because I really wanted it. I really want to make sure that he got paid a fair price, because he deserved that. And I just want to thank him, because he worked with me, and I think we both ended up with a really good transaction. Very excited about that. To me, that's the grand finale of all of it, is having that. Let's take a look real fast at Radio Times. It was front page. Talked about a lot about the series and stuff. A very big deal in the UK, and one that really was, heralded such a return. One thing that we're able to do that we don't normally get a chance to do is we talk about the Radio Times, but here we could also talk about TV Guide. This is the TV Guide from the week of the show airing, and I think the week for TV Guide starts the Saturday before. So it's May 11th, the day I got my my uncut TV movie dub from the station. And I got a copy in Minnesota the week it aired. I'm sure I have it somewhere in the house. Surprisingly, I can't find it. So this I went on eBay for, and I got this, and this is another market. This isn't Minnesota. So I should see if I can still find the Minnesota one. But, there's a couple things here. There's this whole thing about the new Who. There's a multi-page article about it. If I can find my Minnesota one, I'm gonna carefully dissect this so I can scan everything in, or just get another one. This thing was like $11. And then there is also a couple things here. You have a full page ad, which mine would be Fox 29 on the bottom, and then you have a little close up about what we're going to look at tonight. Is that John Ritter? I think so. How cool. Just back in the day. And they covered it pretty well. Didn't garner the great ratings that we wanted, but they covered it pretty well. Some people say that Fox didn't promote the series well at all. I don't know. I think that they did. I think they did a better job of it than Disney did of Doctor Who, for what it's worth. And, working at it from the station side in Minnesota, I thought it was covered pretty well. Considering that, yeah, we wanted it to be a pilot, but keep in mind, Fox still saw it as nothing other than a Tuesday night movie. Tornado didn't go into production either. Let's talk about DWM. And what we're going to do here, I'm going to try to keep it focused still on the VHS here, but because the VHS and the broadcast are so close together, you're going to kind of get an overlap here. And one thing that I find very interesting is that from the time that we first start hearing about the TV movie, when it goes into production, to the time that it airs, the excitement level is actually very palpable, very interesting. So we start off with DWM 236, and we look at production team from the movie. Plus, we hear about Gail Hoffman, the marketing manager of BBC Video, saying that there was something very special being planned around the release of the TV movie on VHS, citing the most recent production at the time of Pride and Prejudice was released on VHS before the last 6 episodes were broadcast, making it the BBC Video's all-time top-selling double-pack VHS release, selling more than 400,000 units, with 12,000 being sold the first day of release. That's huge numbers. You know, we're hoping that Tomb of the Cybermen would sell 30,000 units so that we can open a missing episode office. It didn't hit 30,000, I think, until 1999. But Pride and Prejudice, over 400,000 double VHS packs. That's huge. I mean, just almost like mind-blowing, really. We move on to DWM 237, and executive producer Philip Segal talks from the set of Vancouver, Canada, about how there would be 5 years of Doctor Who due to different contractual options at this point. The film was planned for an autumn broadcast and not May release, though BBC Worldwide was still planning on a May VHS release and was planning for a rush release, hoping to have copies of the VHS in the high street shops within 2 weeks of receiving the final edited and dubbed master print of the film. A major promotional campaign is planned. I had this magazine when it came out. I bought this, and I remember reading all this, but also this bit about the comparison between the timelines of Doctor Who and James Bond, which was something I kind of always thought about myself personally, but seeing that DWM did it, I thought it was kind of fun, and I wanted to include that here as well. Then we move on to DWM 238. We get a US air date of the 14th of May and also information of when the VHS will get a release, though the date that they give us is going to shift, but tells us a little bit about the cover and how it's going to be a photographic cover as well. It's interesting, isn't it? The thought that the TV movie in the UK, it was possible that it wasn't going to even run until autumn, but it sounds like that it was moved to May because they didn't want like pirating as well. So that was very interesting. To DWM 239, you can feel that the hype in this issue of as we're getting closer to the broadcast and we see the cover, and there's certainly that the film at the time, they were pretty certain that the film was going to get a 15 certificate rating. As you can see, that didn't happen. So let's find out why. In DWM 240, the TV movie aired in the States by this point, and it's reported how poorly the film did in the States, though DWM tells us not to panic, which I feel like that's what we're getting with the Disney situation at the moment. The VHS was going to be a 15 certificate, which the BBC was happy with, but the BBFC alerted the BBC Video on the 9th of May that they could not release a 15 certificate version of the TV movie since the BBC was broadcasting a pre-watershed version of the film. The release would need to be delayed until BBC Video could create a version that could pass the BBFC. So basically how it sounds to me that if the BBC was going to be running a version that was edited, you could not release this unedited. I'm sure there are reasons why that you can maybe release something further down the line that's unedited. But it sounds like that you needed to have this match the broadcast version, and they needed to cut it down more to be able to get the certificate that they needed to, which meant that it was delayed. And so it finally came out. They got what they wanted out of it. They were able to edit it down, and it ended up with a 12 certificate. Now, there's nothing in DWB about this, and the thing about that is that DWB had closed, had folded by that point. I wonder if they were able to hold on for a couple more years, and when Doctor Who started to, this TV movie started to get hit the ground and stuff, and they were able to report on it, would that have helped them at all? I mean, I don't think it would have kept them open for that much longer, but would that have kept things happening for a little bit? I don't know. DWB is a wonderful, wonderful publication. I've said it before. I get frustrated with the bias that it would have, but being a big fan of missing episode rumors, it was really a lot of fun to read. Now, I was friends with Gary Leigh, or Levy, whichever, with Gary Leigh for a while on Facebook. One day he had sent me a note on Facebook saying, "You never like my stuff. You never hit the like on my posts." Okay, I don't see your posts. I'll be perfectly honest, our political ideations don't really match. And so I think I might have just unfollowed him or something at that point. And we don't have to agree on our political views. It's just that I don't have to also see political views I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think that's a nasty position to have. It's just I just don't need to see them. Just like no one would need to see mine if I posted, which I never do, about politics. But he's like, you don't ever like my stuff. Okay. Well, if you don't start liking my stuff, I'm going to unfriend you. Well, I said, I can't guarantee I'm going to like your stuff. I said, we don't agree on a lot of things, but I didn't think that's a reason not to be friends. But I mean, you do what you need to do. And he did. He unfriended me. So there you are. No ill will on my part, at least. I mean, he was very, I think he ended it like, okay, well, I know what I have to do. Have a good day. It wasn't rude. It's just like, you're not liking my stuff. If you don't like it, you're not my friend anymore. Okay. There we go. People are weird, aren't they? And I can say that because I know I'm weird as well, but now let's talk about the VHS here real fast. One of the things I didn't talk about with DWM 237 was that they had a list, and apparently people were confused because they thought all the previous titles of Doctor Who up to the point of this was going to be deleted, meaning that no longer more copies aren't going to be made anymore, and no more copies are going to be put into stores where they would have certain runs of certain titles. And it's clear because DWM 237 says as such that there was confusion, and they had a list of all the titles that are going to be deleted. And there has to have been more than that, or they added more, because that's not everything that you just couldn't find anymore. Some of the really good stories I had to get secondhand because there was no way of finding anything. They were deleted for a while. This changed the brand of Doctor Who on every level. By the logo, by just the ideology of what things look like, and so they ended up for whatever reason they deleted a lot of titles. One of them being the previous title released right before the TV movie, and that was The Hand of Fear. So that was only available for a few months and then deleted. So getting a copy of The Hand of Fear was very difficult afterwards because they were very scarce. And like many of these secondhand titles, they were expensive. But once again, as I've certainly have noted, you can money didn't seem to be an object for me. But so this changed a lot of things, and not only that, but it halted the VHS releases for quite some time. The next VHS release after this to come out was on the 7th of October. So between May and October, there were no Doctor Who releases. And it was The Green Death, because as a tribute to the late Jon Pertwee. Now, I can't remember exactly why titles were deleted and why, and my guess is, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be horribly wrong here, that with this new look and this new feel for Doctor Who, and not knowing what's going on, it felt like they didn't want to put a whole lot of classic stuff. At the time, it wasn't called classic, but all the original series stuff out. Like it was, I don't know, always felt like that maybe they didn't feel it matched the new brand, even though the series is Doctor Who. And I could be completely wrong on that. So that's just me verbally theorizing opposed to any sort of facts here. I do know that there was nothing there. And we didn't see Doctor Who after the Green Death until I think it was like then you'd get Leisure Hive and The Awakening Frontios, and then 97, that was in 97, early 97, and then we start down the path that got us like the War Machines and stuff like that. Actually pretty sad, really, because it just didn't seem right. And for this and for the Green Death, they had this sort of metallic, sort of shiny logo, which is kind of cool, but really doesn't photograph very well. I think the last time we had something like this was for Tomb of the Cybermen, having that kind of stuff as well. And, the cover itself, we know it's a photo montage, or not even photo montage, photographic cover. It was released before the film aired, which was pretty incredible. And the back, too, has the shininess. What I don't like, because I do think this is very nice, and I don't think it works for the Green Death very well, personally. And the Green Death had the diamond logo in Australia, and possibly over here in the US. I don't like this TARDIS. And the Green Death had one too. And I'm glad that they dropped it, because I think it's very cartoonish. If you're going a certain way to make the brand look a certain way, and this is clearly meant to be much more adult looking, much more serious looking, though I would never say that what we have here is comedic. It's beautiful stuff, but they're clearly going a different direction. This, in my mind, is very comedic, having this like cartoon TARDIS. And the one for the Green Death, which is actually right there, it's still there as well. I'm not a fan. And of course, one thing we do know about this too is that this is edited. And I think the first time that it wasn't edited would have been on the original 2002 DVD release. But this is definitely edited. But yeah, it's edited, and then finally got a unedited release on DVD, and then also released on DVD part of the Revisitation sets. There was multiple of those. Basically, those were the early DVD releases that didn't have the same level of restoration as the later ones did. Some people, as we talked about with the beginning set on VHS, didn't want to have to repay to rebuy DVDs multiple times. I'm always like, if it's better quality, count me in, I'm in. So, those are the Revisitation sets. As far as like the Blu-ray set, I don't know if there was anybody involved from at that what we called the restoration team, the Doctor Who restoration team. They don't exist anymore per se, but the people who worked on it still work on the releases. I'm sure Mark worked on the audio for the Blu-ray set. I don't remember if Peter Crocker worked on the picture at all. We're going to do a comparison as we wrap up here. And the comparison is this. We're going to do the 1996 VHS release. We're going to do... I'm not going to do I don't think I'm going to do any of the DVDs that were officially released, the 2002 or 2011. I'm going to do from my DVD sets, my DVDs that I got professionally transferred from the Beta SP tapes, and then we're going to do the Blu-ray. And we're going to take a look to see how that works and how that looks. And from there... just see, because it's all shot on film, can we tell much of a difference? I think we will to a certain degree, but I'm excited to see what this looks like too. So as we wrap up here, I talk a lot about this film. This film means a lot to me. I hope that I hear from people where the film means a lot from them as well, because this is truly, this was a game changer. Just like in 2005, Series 1, I'm sure, was a game changer for millions of people. And just so much fun to hear about your stuff. Now remember, folks, feel free to... put comments in the YouTube because I'd love to read them, and please subscribe to my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, once again, my Patreon, please consider joining. It's less than $3, or it starts at $3 a month. Would really appreciate some more people signing up because it does help me. I really would appreciate it quite a bit. I have a lot more videos planned that they're being worked on, and would love to just get some extra help for some of the stuff that I use money for these videos. And I'm blessed to have a number of people who have signed up and support me, and here they are right now.
I called out your name in a misty dream last night. Saw that old smile that I made.
You can send me a note at the email address below if there's any, if you want to add anything to this story, or you want to politely correct me on any of my facts. I'm very much open to that. I'm very happy to have you with. And as we finish up here, just want to say that, it took a while, but Doctor Who did return. Doctor Who will return in the current state that we're looking at now. Doctor Who will return someday, somehow. And, if history taught us anything, I think it's to be patient, because it's going to happen. And when it does happen, as they say, it's about time. As I am going to be sharing a story about how I paid for a copy of The 10th Planet, Episode 4. It was a hoax. Roger K. Barrett does not exist.
Are you Roger K. Barrett?